Hi, my name is Héctor Jairo Oviedo Robles. I'm a student, the bachelor's degree, exercise science. Teacher Liz Elda Guadalupe Espinosa Saucedo. Signature, Culture English. Evidence, PIA. Integrator product of learning oral presentations on video about an essay where you compare one of the topics included in the course. Communication media difference. Propaganda is to a democracy what the lockdown is to a totalitarian state. Noam Chomsky. In the 21st century, media and news companies are adapting to this era when content is changing, the way to receive news is changing too, but about all that the receptor of the content is different and different day after day. Every single company created its own content, build audience and create empathy with those and the other side of TV. The continuous material developed is made to fulfill the very deep desire of each viewer to have the control in a hand, literally. It is well known that each country and communication politics and based on the those one is how the content is created or considered to be launched to audience. In other words, what TV projects do. The screen is what politics of each country allow. There are several parameters or categories that we can find in the of the North American countries of those we reviewed during the semester. These are language use, attire of the news presenter, location, types of news presented, sections of news shows. As I mentioned before, these categories are monitored to be used correctly, but the aspects of each own is what differentiates a quality media content of a bad one. Language use. In USA and in Canada, English language is the most known in the population. This because most of their citizens is familiarized with it. Also, it depends of the type of news show. For example, there are some topics that require the answer to have a technical style. The local and national news can be spoken with a normal style in the order, and the cultural, economic, political, sport might have some techniques. In the Mexico Spanish language for local TV is more populated by common people and filled with more victim news, as Mexican news wrong being that immigration affects the way we receive information, attire of the news presenter. As the doctor wears a robe to be distinguished in the hospital and during the consultation, the news anchor must be reset to the occasions. Of course, there are several things to be considered during the transmission, and one of the most important based in the section or type of news transmissions. USA, Mexico, and Canada have morning and evening news with two principal anchors. The male often use a formal suit and the female usually wear business suit or some fun blouse. The other anchors might use a suit but way can also wear less formal clothes in some sections like sports and cultural. It's important to mention in Canada there is been a discussion where a female anchor because she is wearing sleeveless dresses. Location. Mexico and USA are more similar in the process aspect, this being site-based in the direction or city of the principal networks, Mexico City and Nueva York for Mexico and USA respectively. In the other hand, Canada has differently way to look these criteria based in their language. They are located in different provinces. The main fare of Mexican television includes news, soap opera, sports, game and shows, reality shows, talk and gossip shows, as well as an abundance of USA programs, such as cartoons, sitcoms and dramas, dubbed into Spanish. Overall, the US coverage on the main channels, while not that different from ours, except that their news anchor were on location and the Canadians were not. Canadian television networks are less and less different from their American counterparts when it comes to international news. For example, in the Mexican media, there are circumstances that could provoke the envy of my Canadians. A private radio with diverse voice and discussions, programs, and incredible, while in the number of newspapers circulating all over the country, the competition that exists in the printed media and with diffusion of a great variety of programs and film production in Mexico on Mexico televisions. In order to understand the Canadian situation, it is important to mention that, with the exception of Quebec, there are not such big differences between Canada and the United States in the terms of language that they can become ideological barriers. Definitely, the Watergate scandals and journalistic work of the Washington Post had similar repercussions in both nations. Conversely, some political obstacles, the lack of importance of Watergate in Mexico, the lack of training of journalists, low age, beat and threats against journalists, cultural, the lack of aggressiveness, the concept of journalism, for example, and idiomatic prevented the growth of this journalistic model in Mexico, except for a few exceptions, such and the Proceso magazine founded by Julio Scherer and Excelsior, the Scherer, the newspaper Reforma, La Jornada, and El Financiero, which have dealt with critical and controversial issues about the government. Finally, in Canadian newspaper and magazines, journalists use the work of writers who have a style of fiction and influence of the so-called new journalism that began to take shape in the 60s. For many years, journalists in my country religiously used the inverted pyramid model. Muchos thank yous. See you.